All right, good evening. This is the December 18th, 2024 Cottage Grove City Council meeting, which I'm calling to order. Our first order of business this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'd please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please do the roll?
Councilmember Kambata?
Here.
Councilmember Olson?
Here.
Councilmember Thiede?
Ho, ho, here.
Councilmember Garza? Mayor Bailey?
Here. Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Thiede. All right, next on our agenda is open forum. This is the opportunity for anybody who wants to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda is welcome to do so. There was a sign-up sheet out in the entryway, but I'm going to just check in the audience. Other than I have one that I'm going to invite up that I told he could speak. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on something this evening on open forum? Okay, not seeing anyone, then I'll have Bruce Karnick, please come up. There's something on our consent agenda, and he wants to speak on that behalf.
Do I need to turn this on, or is it going to be on?
Nope, it's already on.
Perfect. I'm Bruce Karnick. I live at 1908 Pine Street in Hastings. But the piece that I'm up here for is as a representative of the Cottage Grove Journal, your guys' local newspaper. On the consent agenda, you have the Pioneer Press being the spot for your legal notices. And one of the things that I know is very important to all of the communities that we serve is staying local. And having the legal notices locally in the Cottage Grove Journal will hit your right market of people. We know that we've had roughly 1,400 subscribers last year, up to 18 already for this year. And you know, it just keeps growing. So we know that we're gonna hit your right market for your legal notices. We know that our rates are very competitive. And more importantly, it keeps people like myself, we've got John Moline, a couple other people local. It keeps them working locally. One of the advantages that you guys have, I mean, Tony, I think you're probably the only one that I have not met personally in this aspect, but Justin, Myron, Dave, I know I've dealt with you guys on different things. We've been at things together that I've covered, that our people have covered. You know us. You know my boss, John. You can talk, you can call me, text me, whatever, him directly, if there's anything that we need to do on the legal notice side of things, and it's gonna get done. You know, it'll be a weekly thing. So yeah, there's a little bit of planning in there, but not much if you look at it. We are legally allowed to do so because we are an adjacent county. So we have our office in Hastings, and we also have one in Ellsworth. So technically 2 counties butt up to this, even though it crosses state lines. So having us be your legal notice distribution process, we'll make it as easy as we can, keep the rates very affordable, and you help support a local business and keep people like myself working and doing things in the community. Do you guys have any questions as to why it's important to do that?
Council, any questions? Guess not.
Okay, so I hope that you guys would be willing to take that off of the consent agenda and have a little bit better discussion on it before you just sign it off and say, we'll go with the Pioneer Press, because you know, a local paper is vital to the community, and every little bit of income that we have does help keep us covering stuff for you guys and covering stuff like this meeting for the, you know, the city in general. So thanks for the time, and have a great night and a good Christmas.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. All right, I'll ask just one more time. Is there anybody else for open forum? All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and close open forum, and we'll move to number 5, which is adoption of the agenda.
Move the agenda.
We have a motion by Councilmember Olson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thiede. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is presentations. We do have a presentation this evening, which it's been, I guess you'd say, a long time coming. And it is a life-saving award for Lauren Rowe. And our Director of Public Safety, Pete Kerner, is going to start us off on this. And then, Council, why don't you join me down in front? And then I'll ask Lauren to come on up to the front here.
All right, well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council.
As the mayor said, this is a long time coming. I think this is perfect timing with the holiday season. It's always fun to honor someone around this time of year and have something really positive. So thank you for coming in tonight. I really appreciate Jonathan is here. He's one of the citizens that originally reached out to me. As you're aware, in the last year and a half, we've really focused on getting our awards and everything coming back. And as the Director of Public Safety, I'm fortunate that I can bring things to the council rather just our awards banquet. And I thought this was so meaningful that we wanted to recognize Lauren here tonight. So just a little brief description of what occurred, but last year Lauren was at the Holiday Station on Hadley Avenue getting some energy drinks, which is not healthy either, Lauren, but while at the register, another customer collapsed. Lauren, who was first aid and AED training, she began immediately doing CPR. So within moments of with the victim dropping, she was able to start working. Washington County had a deputy that was near the area when they made the call. The deputy started with the AED, and Lauren quickly jumped in and took over that and started the AED. Fortunately, the AED deployed twice, shocked him twice, and then our fire department was able to arrive. Fortunate for us, Captain James Olson was one of those medics that responded and happens to be on duty tonight, so I said it'd be really neat if he could come up and meet with Lauren and also just share a few words. So as you're aware, Mayor and Council, we've had countless meetings where we've come in and we've talked to you about our commitment to hands-only CPR. We have the great partnership with Teddy's Heart, so you're really well aware of it. Last year, we're actually designated as the Heart Safe community too, so we've put a lot of effort into this. So with that, Lauren, you undoubtedly played a significant role in saving a man's life. You are also pursuing a career in law enforcement, so I know this probably continued to fuel your passion to serve and be a police officer. And I hope in your interviews when they talk about a difficult situation or where you had this is a heck of a story to be able to share in that interview. So in a moment, present you with the Life-Saving Award. And I have a Chiefs coin for you too. And since the font is kind of small, I printed it out so I could read this to you. But this coin is awarded for outstanding service to the citizens of Cottage Grove. I can tell you, these don't come out very often. We probably have one or two of these maybe a year, if that. So you're in great company. So with that, I want to turn it over quickly to Captain James Olson, and he talk a little bit too. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief, Mayor, Council. What a beautiful opportunity this is to just reiterate how important it is to have our public trained. We offer classes for hands-only CPR, AED use. Lauren is a wonderful example of what that looks like in action. As this gentleman dropped in front of her, she recognized that early. She started high-quality CPR early and then got the AED involved, and that led to a favorable outcome, positive outcome. This gentleman walked out of the hospital neurologically intact, so well done, Lauren.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to present you, obviously, and Chief, you want to come up here and yeah, come on up. This is a certificate for a life-saving award that is granted to an employee or citizen who performs emergency medical or rescue actions that saved a life. And in this case, it's you, Lauren. So thank you for your service to our community in doing that. Obviously saving an individual that was in distress. And on behalf of all of us in the council, our staff, and the entire citizens of Cottage Grove, congratulations and thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. Say anything?
I just want to say thank you, and I'm honored to get this award for what I have done, even though it wouldn't have changed anything in the first place. So.
There you go. Thank you.
We'll pick a picture with the snow on our spot too.
All right. Next on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Council, is there anything you want to pull for further discussion or anything on consent at this point.
Can we go, see that we had him get up there, just explain a little bit about the paper and some of the requirements and designation?
So do you want to pull and ask staff? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find which
no,
one it is. E? There it is. Okay. Okay, Dave. Anybody else have anything they want to pull? Okay. So for further discussion or feedback, Councilmember Thiede, or staff, the designation of a newspaper for 2025, and in essence, the rationale behind it. So I don't know if Jennifer, you want to take it, or if Corey, or both.
Well, Mayor, members of the council, it's always very difficult, obviously, when you don't have a paper that's physically located within your city limits, because by state statute, that would have made it easier. But obviously, when that isn't the case, we go to the next tier of circulation and distribution of our paper. And obviously, the Pioneer Press has a very large circulation and distribution amount within our community. One of the things, Council, I know you pride yourself in is the transparency to the public, ensuring that our message and our information is getting out there. The Pioneer Press does enable us to do that in a much broader sense than the local Cottage Grove Journal. The other thing, too, is the publication schedule. As you know, development is important to the city of Cottage Grove, and the publication and the ability to be able to be responsive quickly to those publications is important. And unfortunately, with the journal publishing only once a week, there is a cutoff timeframe that can make some of that challenging. And so for us, the Pioneer Press is able to publish, 7 days a week, and be able to meet all of our obligations in regards to that. And so it really helps us on a development side of things to be responsive to the development community for their notices. And so that is why we are recommending the Pioneer Press as the paper for 2025.
Okay. Anything else you?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, council? All right, so seeing no other comments or anything being pulled in consent, I guess we'll look for a motion to approve consent.
Move consent.
All right, so we have motion by Councilmember Thiede, seconded by Councilmember Kambata. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So if anybody was here on anything that's on tonight's consent agenda, all of those items have been approved. Number 8 is approved disbursement. 8A is to pay the bills.
Move the bills.
We have a motion by Councilmember Olson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kambata. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is 9 is a public hearing. We do have one this evening. We have the 2025 Payment Management Program, and we have Crystal Rowley, who is our Assistant City Engineer. Welcome, Crystal, to the council chambers, who will walk us through this.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. The next agenda item here tonight is the 2025 Pavement Management Project public hearing. Over the years, the city of Cottage Grove has done a wide variety of different pavement rehabilitation and pavement maintenance practices. The seal coat practice was done for a number of years. It's since found to be, it doesn't last as long as we would have hoped. We're looking for a 25 to 30-year pavement life cycle. We were looking for 25 to 30 years. We're now pushing that out to looking at 40 years for a pavement life cycle. And so we've found some other rehabilitation methods that are helping us hit that 40-year life. We like to do crack seal projects where those cracks at the beginning of a pavement life and all through its life can get sealed up so no water can get in. We also do a lot of mill and overlay projects. We do reclamation projects where we grind up that pavement and the gravel below it and then repave a new surface on top. We do a lot of pavement replacement projects, which is what we're talking about here tonight. And then we do full reconstruction where we remove the pavement, the gravel underneath, all the way down to that subgrade, and then we build the pavement surface back up. So why do we do pavement management? We really want to keep our roads in a good structural condition. Again, we want them to last as long as possible so we aren't spending our resources on them. So again, pushing that out to that 40-year life cycle is really what we're looking for. And then these projects also allow us to take inventory of our infrastructure under the street and make any necessary repairs at that time once the pavement is off. And then we're able to maintain property values with this practice as well. A nice new street in front of a residence maintains a higher property value than an older street with a lot of patching in that. So we really want to keep that level of service high for our residents. This map shows a history of pavement management throughout Cottage Grove, but it's a little deceiving. Pavement management projects in Cottage Grove date back to 1994. If all those years were on this map, almost every street would be highlighted and we'd run out of color, I'm sure. So this list is since 2010, and you can see we've bounced around to lots of areas in the city. The pavement management project being proposed for 2025 is in the Hidden Valley neighborhood. The neighborhood's before you on the screen. It started construction back in 1986 on the lower southeast corner of that neighborhood in the orange. And then construction continued through the early 2000s with the northwest corner, that green cul-de-sac, being completed in about 2005. How do we figure out which roads are eligible for pavement management or which ones we want to push forward? We look at a variety of factors. One of those is appraiser ratings. So we drive our streets every year. We look at all the segments of streets and evaluate what they're looking like from the surface. We give them a condition assessment rated 1 through 10, with 10 being good condition and 1 needing a lot of work. We also refer to our maintenance records. We look at, when did we chip seal these streets? When was there a big patching project? We also have this thin overlay practice where our street superintendent and his crew does a 1/2 inch to 1 inch overlay over the street. We look at those records. We evaluate a lot of different factors. We also take core samples where we actually cut out sections of the pavement and look at it. That surface can look a lot different from what it looks like underneath. I kind of wanted to point out this intersection, Hidden Valley Hollow and Hidden Valley Lane in this neighborhood. Google Earth showed some interesting air photos throughout the years. In 2015, under that red rectangle, you can kind of see a large dark area on that northbound lane. That's a really large patch. In 2016, you can see there's lots of additional patches with the smaller, darker colors on the street. And then in 2017, still more work was needed, so our streets crew came in and did a thin overlay on that project in 2017. Here are some current pictures of the neighborhood. This top one is Hidden Valley 3rd Edition. You can see vegetation starting to grow through some of these cracks. The lower right-hand corner is a picture of the thin overlay starting to wear off. There isn't a lot of structure underneath that overlay, so it's starting to wear over time, and that's what we anticipate will continue to happen in this neighborhood if something isn't done. The upper left is Hidden Valley 5th Edition and 6th Edition on the lower right. Again, both of these photos just show a lot of cracking, a lot of asphalt stripping in this neighborhood. So when we're evaluating these projects for improvements, we're also looking at our storm and sanitary sewer systems, and we're evaluating those from the street level and then also under the street through camera technology to look for cracks and look at the condition of the insides of pipes. When we reviewed those in this neighborhood, we found that generally the storm and sanitary systems are in good condition. There are some opportunities to make some improvements, and those are proposed for the project. With water main, we take a look at our records, how many breaks have we had in this area, and we found that there are very infrequent breaks, and we expect that water main is generally in good condition out here. If the pavement is removed, we can get a better look at valve bolts and fittings, and so we would evaluate that at the time of the project. So what we're proposing is a full pavement replacement where we would remove the upper layers of pavement, get down to that gravel base. We would regrade, recompact that gravel base, and then pave 2 lifts of asphalt to a depth of 3.5 inches. We're also looking at a spot curb replacement for this project. Some neighborhoods, we do full curb replacement, just really depends on the condition of the curb. Some areas of this project do warrant full curb replacement, but for the most part, the curb was approximately 27% damaged. So most of the area of this neighborhood would be spot curb replacement. And like I said, we'll also take advantage of the street being open and do some minor utility repairs while we're in the area, lining some pipes and manholes, replacing some of those structures if needed. We would recondition and raise hydrants. We would replace their 2 pressure reducing valves, which is a water system feature. Those would both be replaced. And then we would replace any damaged light poles, and high pressure sodium fixtures would be upgraded to the current LED fixtures. We also look at parks in the neighborhoods of pavement management projects. Hidden Valley Park is in this neighborhood, and there are some opportunities to take advantage of a contractor being right next door. So there are some projects proposed in Hidden Valley Park, but it's important to note that these projects would not be assessed to the residents. These will be paid for by park improvement funds. So in total, there are about 229 assessable properties in this neighborhood. These assessments are estimated to be $6,329.73. Estimated is a key word. Right now, all these numbers are based on project estimates. If the project moves forward, final costs would be based on real construction numbers. When we're looking at these projects, we also do a special benefit appraisal, so we determine what is the benefit to the property from leaving the pavement alone versus having a brand new street in front of a home. The special benefit appraisal came in at $7,400 for these properties. That really supports that assessment of $6,329. If a property owner did not choose to pay that assessment within the first 30 days of the adoption of the assessment roll, the average annual payment over the series of 15 years is $630.92. And then it's important to note that the property owners could pay any amount upfront in that first 30 days to avoid interest if it's amortized for 15 years. So this screen shows the accessible parcels for this project. The green are the 229 accessible parcels in Hidden Valley neighborhood. The blue parcels are city-owned parcels, and the streets that are adjacent to city-owned parcels are funded only by city funds. So those street sections next to the blue are not assessed, or not included in that assessment calculation. The total project cost for this neighborhood, $3,885,470.95. Again, that's based on an estimate at this time. There are lots of funding sources in a project of this size. Sanitary, water, and stormwater utility, as well as our streetlight funds would pick up a significant percentage of project costs. Our park improvement and trail replacement funds would pay for some of that work within Hidden Valley Park. The general levy would pay for about 1.6 million of this project, and then assessments would cover the remaining 1.4 million as shown on the screen here. So what are the terms of the assessment? If this project moves forward tonight, each property would be listed as having a pending assessment. If the project moves forward and construction is completed next fall and the assessment roll is adopted, the residents would have 30 days from the date of adoption to pay any amount higher than $500 towards that assessment to avoid interest. Anything that's not paid within the first 30 days is assessable over the next 15 years. The interest rate, anything in that 15 years would be subject to interest. The interest rate is 1.5% over the city's bond rating. And right now, that is looking at like about 6%, but that would be evaluated at the time next fall. And deferral is available if certain conditions are met, disabled or military, 65 and older. But if deferral is chosen by residents, it's good to know that interest does still accrue during that deferral period. So the schedule, on December 10th, just last week, we had a neighborhood meeting. We had about 40 residents in attendance. They're very engaged, asked a lot of great questions. Logistics during construction kind of came up, and that's a really common question. It's kind of scary going into this and knowing all of your streets are going to be torn up, and how does that actually work? So we got through that, and then here we are at the public hearing, December 18th. If the project moves forward, we had anticipate that we'd be approving plans and specifications on February 19th, 2025. We would then open bids on March 13th, 2025. Once we have a contractor, after we've done that bid opening and found our contractor, we would then have a schedule and a phasing plan that we would develop. And then we'd pull our neighbors in again and have a second neighborhood meeting to really talk logistics. How is this gonna work? So that would be late March, early April 2025. Construction would start in the spring, hopefully be completed by September, and then we'd be back here for an assessment hearing in October 2025. So with that, the recommendations are on the screen, and I'm available for any questions.
Great, excuse me, Council, you have any questions at this moment? Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Crystal. Good presentation. A lot of good information there. A couple things occurred to me as I was going through this in the packet, and then, your presentation sort of made me think about those things again. Number one of the reasons that the city has typically approached these sorts of projects early. So we're in December for a project that's going to happen next year, we want to be in a favorable bidding environment. And the sooner we can get plans and specs out to the potential contractors, the more competitive the bidding typically is. And that's always sort of worked in our favor. I think that's been a good practice for as long as I've been part of the council. So my question is this. As we are sort of exploring this, have we had any contractors we've worked with before, anything like that? Has anybody expressed interest in being part of the bidding environment at this point? Do we know any of that? Or are we just basically going to wait till February when plans and specs come online if this project moves forward, and then kind of see where we land?
I haven't heard of specific contractors that are calling and asking questions on the
Yeah.
project quite yet. Of course, we haven't pulled the trigger to move
Right.
forward, right?
Right.
But all of the contractors that I've worked with so far in my time here on this project would be interested in this type of project. We're also, and I mean that, like you said, that February, March, April, that is a perfect time frame to be bidding and to be getting good pricing on a project like this. So the contractors will really be looking for work around that time of year and looking to fill up their calendar for the
Right.
summer. So we are hitting that sweet spot, and we anticipate a lot of interest. I believe last year we had 7 bidders on our project.
Did.
So we should be sitting well.
And that competitive bid environment, as I said earlier, it's seemed to be favorable for us, where, we get an estimate and then the bidding environment comes in and we're pleasantly surprised. So that's why I asked that question. The second thing that occurred to me was, when you think about Hidden Valley, and I live very near to Hidden Valley, and so, I took several drives through the neighborhood as we were considering this project. There's a lot of cul-de-sacs. It's a little bit different than some of the neighborhoods that were built early on in the city's history. And because of those cul-de-sacs, you have some land mass that isn't necessarily fully populated with dwellings. So it seems like the dwelling number's a little light. Am I just seeing things, or is that accurate?
You're absolutely right. There is a lot of pavement area, a lot of blacktop in this neighborhood that doesn't necessarily have a house, right on it, or,
Right.
Just a few houses for a lot of blacktop. So another thing we noticed about this neighborhood is that the lots are very large.
Yes.
Compared to how we're building our city out now. So there are fewer parcels to spread this project cost around. So
Sure.
this assessment is a little higher than we've seen for a spot curb in the past. Of course, inflation, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but one of those is certainly the amount of pavement because of those cul-de-sacs and then the big lot sizes that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a basic math equation,
It is,
but
it
it just
really is.
struck me that, boy, the configuration probably isn't helping us too much on something like that. And then the last thing that I wanted to ask, and I'm not sure if you want to take this or Ryan, but I know you did some pretty extensive testing in the neighborhood, including lots of core sampling. You know, as a layman, driving through the neighborhood, you can see a lot of the reflective cracking coming up. And, you know, you showed some pictures of the thin overlay that Gary and his team did, and that's kind of starting to break up now too. What did we see in the core as far as the deeper infrastructure? Because even sometimes when the roadway looks beautiful, underneath, there's all kinds of issues. So were there any major call-outs that you guys saw other than just it's aged and the asphalt's dried out and it's in bad shape?
Yeah. I'll take what I can, and if Ryan wants to
Okay.
add in, he certainly can, but we are seeing a lot of asphalt stripping, and asphalt stripping is when the, asphalt glue that holds the rocks together in an asphalt mix, when that glue is kind of washed away over the years. And when we take those cores, we know there's asphalt stripping when they don't hold together. That top thin overlay is intact, but underneath it, there's nothing supporting it. Ryan's crew had cut out a couple sections themselves to evaluate, and one of those samples just completely fell apart. There was nothing underneath it. And we think that's what's happening throughout the neighborhood.
Okay, all right, I know that there are occasions where maybe a project gets delayed, and then what ends up happening is that infrastructure that you can't see gets even worse. In fact, I think this happened in the mayor's neighborhood, and then you're stuck with a full reconstruction, and it gets really difficult.
Yeah,
So,
that's absolutely right. The curb continues to degrade too, which,
Yeah.
once we have a full curb replacement on a project costs can rise quite quickly with full curb versus spot curb, as we're going to be doing out here. So
Okay.
we try to catch them before they're real bad.
Well, thanks for the info, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Wilson. Councilmember Kambata.
Thank you. When you were discussing the breakdown of where the funding was coming from, can you explain why the city was fronting the 1.6 million that wasn't being assessed to property owners?
So the city's assessment policy allows us to assess up to 45% of project costs to the homeowners that are adjacent to the project. The remaining 55%, like, that's
got
hard
it.
math for a second there. The remaining 55% is to be paid for by other funding sources. When we can identify a specific utility funding source for utility work, we'll absolutely use those funds. But the remainder does have to be picked up with general levy
And so
funds.
that's like the general tax fund, that's everyone's
That's, yes,
taxes are paying for that section of road or that percentage of that, correct?
that's correct.
Not just this specific neighborhood?
Right, the general tax base. Yep.
Okay, no other questions here? Nothing from you? Councilmember Thiede?
I guess I'll mention it, and not that it matters, but both Tony and I live in the neighborhood, so it's a tough one to swallow, but, you know, and the one thing that neighborhood, again, quite a time span, you know, over the different roads, and actually there was a significant difference in quality of asphalt, and that we had a period where probably some of the later neighborhoods had pavement that probably, I would say probably wore out actually before some of the older stuff, and so forth. So it's kind of interesting. That the other thing that makes us a little more expensive, you know, we like our 32-foot curb-to-curb roads versus what is 28 now, and we had a lot of arguments back in the 2010 era and things like that about, you know, the streets and the street widths and how the contractors were, you know, narrowing it down and things like that. So, but that obviously adds more cost to the project also. But So while in some ways, I go out and I say, well, the road doesn't look too bad. Technically, there's no holes that I've lost my cars in or any kids or dogs or anything like that. But I guess, we did take the samples and while it's a little bit of a tough pill for anybody to swallow, not just because we're in the neighborhood, but anybody, anywhere in the city, it's something that does keep the city in good shape and probably helps some of the vehicles stay in more mint condition and things like that. And we often have people say, man, you guys, your roads are really good, when you talk to people from other cities and so forth. So I guess it's, I'm probably gonna have to swallow hard and vote okay, but.
Councilmember Olson has another question.
Yeah, thanks. So Councilmember Thiede mentioned something that had not occurred to me, and I want to ask another question about that, and that is the condition of the asphalt in some of the newer areas. There was a period of a couple of years where the MnDOT spec for asphalt was not great, and some of that had to do with the change from what they had been doing to trying to reclaim older asphalt and then remix it with oil and try to essentially, recycle some of that stuff to be used in neighborhoods. And I know the city of Woodbury had several large areas in their city where that asphalt wore out much faster than it was supposed to have done. Did that neighborhood experience some of that? Is that accurate?
Being a Wisconsin girl, I am going to defer to my Minnesota colleagues on
Okay,
that one.
all right, yeah. There's nothing Ryan likes to talk about more than asphalt, so.
No, that's Jennifer.
Yeah, well, that too, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, this is a good one for me to touch on because I was here, 8-10 years ago when we were really looking at our asphalt specs, because we do have to follow MnDOT. They're that guiding principle for asphalt throughout all of Minnesota. But what we found with that asphalt stripping is, as Crystal mentioned, it was really drying out. And what was happening is the asphalt content was quite low compared to what we'd want to see. So within the bounds of the MnDOT spec, we made little tweaks back in kind of the mid-2010s, and we were really able to boost those numbers up and get the asphalt content back to what we like to see, while also providing a really good product, I think. So the pavements that we're putting down now, really more closely match what we were seeing in the kind of the 80s timeframe, with that asphalt content being a higher percentage of the overall pavement. So that was a very proactive thing that we did when I was here, and Jennifer Love was the city engineer at the time, and I think we've seen great results with that since we made those changes. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I just recall having those conversations at that time about the mix wasn't quite what we were looking for, and so when Councilmember Thiede mentioned that, kind of flipped the switch in my brain, and that maybe that was part of the issue, even in some of those newer neighborhoods, because as he said, we had neighborhoods with that older spec, that older mix that didn't need any work really for close to 30 years. So yeah, that's unfortunate that happened. Thanks for answering that for me.
All right, any other questions at this point, council?
I was going to
Councilmember
go
Kambata?
on a tangent on asphalt and aggregate size and how we achieve the higher content of asphalt through aggregate. But I don't need to bore everyone.
I think that's a good call.
I'm not touching that one. All right, so seeing no other comments by council, this is a public hearing, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing. And if anybody would like to speak on this, yes, please, just come on up and state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Kelly Dawn. I live at 7591 74th Street South in Hidden Valley. And I really am wanting to speak. I don't disagree. I was a regional director in infrastructure for a long time. I do believe our roads need to be done. I do think that the assessment is aggressive. It does help to understand that we have bigger lot sizes and things like that in the neighborhood, and and how the neighborhood was phased originally didn't help that matter. But I really wanted to speak today because I really think that this rollout could have been done so much more gingerly, to be frank. This is a project that the city has known about that needed to be done for a really long time. It's not a secret. You can get lost in potholes in some of the cul-de-sacs. We walk them every single night, the entire loop, the entire cul-de-sac. The repavement that was done, I think 3 years ago roughly, is a huge safety risk. And so it's not beyond me that it needed to be done. The part that really bothers me is that 30 days before Christmas, our neighborhood is slapped with a $7,000 bill. And then we're just, oh, but it's interest-free for 30 days. Well, that's, as far as I'm concerned, like, this assessment is aggressive. The way that it was rolled out is wrong. I'm glad to know that we are going to be getting revamps to the park that was completely demolished and degraded when we did the park reboot. What was it, last summer or the summer before? Our old park was fantastic. It was my kids' favorite park. Absolutely no neighborhood community involvement happened when that park was being supposedly redone. And it's a park that my kids no longer want to go to, so that's good news on that one. But I really think that they do need to be giving homeowners more time. This is something that if we would have had more time than what will ultimately be about a year, we could have been able to pay that amount in full. And we will end up having to finance it to a tune of an additional $3,000 when this is done to be paid. This is a time of inflation. This is a time where people don't have extra money. And with all due respect, this is a time where the city council has come back to homeowners more than once to ask us to increase our property taxes. You came to us in this last voting election asking us to then say, oh, well, everybody can pay a sales tax to do parks that don't need to be redone. So I really do think that there does need to be a level of a shift in priorities. Because a $7,000 bill on a neighborhood who's turned over to all brand new families with brand new babies isn't acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? And again, just state your name and address for the record then. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Lance McMorrow from 7371 Hidden Valley Trail. I am new to Cottage Grove and Hidden Valley. I just bought a house in the development in May, and when I looked at the property, I said, great, this road is fantastic. I'm not going to be hit with an assessment for a long time. And I came from West St. Paul, where I lived in a condo association, where there were about 5 or 6 roads that collectively were done over the course of 5 years, so I wrote checks for about 5 or 6 years. So my biggest concern is obviously the price on this assessment was really eye-popping, and the timing was less than ideal. And the second concern I have is just, are we getting the most for our money? The road looks good. Are we making our dollars stretch as far as they can? And like I said, I came in new to the community and the road looks really good. Obviously, I don't have core samples or anything like that, but just from a layman's perspective, the road looks really good. And my preference and my neighbor's preference was that if this could be pushed down the road a couple of years and save some money, that'd be great. But those are my concerns, and thanks for hearing me.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak this evening? Okay, what I'm going to do is go ahead and close the public hearing, and there was some questions that were being asked, and you want to take it, Jennifer? Okay,
Yes, Mayor and
City
Council.
Administrator Jennifer Levitt will kind of respond to some of them.
Well, I'll talk about assessments and I won't talk about asphalt. So when it comes to asphalt, I'll turn it back over to Crystal. But when it comes to the assessments and taxes, I thought I would start there. One of the questions, related to the assessment being too high. The one thing that I would remind council, tonight is a decision about ordering the project. So tonight, you're looking at the warrants that merit ordering the project and moving forward with it. The question about the value of the assessment and the amount, that is the conversation that we will have in October after the project is complete. So there is a distinction. So tonight, you're looking at, is this project warranted to proceed based upon the merits that you've heard and the feasibility report that's been before you? So we will talk about assessments in much greater detail in October if the project moves forward. And one of the questions the resident brought to our attention in her comments was related to being surprised. Now, council, I know that you want to give residents as much lead time as possible, but I know that you're also very fiscally conservative, and you know what happened in our budget discussions. You looked at our financial management plan for the next 10 years. You looked at the pavement managements that we had planned, and the value of those were not fitting within your financial means. And so you did challenge staff to go back and reevaluate our pavement management program to make sure that it fits within our financial management plan for the next 10 years. Unfortunately, when we had to make that adjustment, we weren't able to give the residents as much notice as we typically would. Because actually, tonight on your consent calendar, you authorized the pavement management feasibility report for 2026. And so that will enable us to give residents much more notice. So to the residents' point, unfortunately, the way the financial situation worked out this summer, we had to pivot. And so as fast as we could get notice to them, we did, because you adopted the budget and the CIP just at the last meeting on December 4th. And so the neighborhood meeting was held on December 10th. So we've been aggressive to try to get notice out to them, but clearly it is still only a year for them to save, and we recognize that hardship. So we do acknowledge that issue. And so if there's any other questions, council, that you want us to talk about pavement condition and stuff like that, the assistant city engineer would be happy to answer those questions.
The only, yeah, Councilmember.
I don't know if you want to say something.
Well, I was going to say something real quick, and then I'll turn it over to you. So one of the things, if I recall, though, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, so even before October, I believe it's February or March, you don't have it up here right now, but February or March, we'll go out for bids, correct? And if the bids come in high, we could say at that particular point, we're not gonna do it, or we can't do it because tonight what we're here for, and again, I'm gonna look for our attorney in that for this. The benefit appraisal says I'll say the cap is 7,400, okay? So we're assuming, based on our data and all the information, that the amount that's gonna be taxed is that 70 or 6,300 or whatever the amount was, specifically. However, if it comes up higher than that, it can't go over 7,400, correct? Because then it's done. So we will, as a council, have another opportunity to take a look at the assessment or what it's gonna cost. I will tell you, and it doesn't always happen perfectly this way, but so far what happens, and it even just happened in the one that we did this year, though it was still high, and that particular one was full curb replacement, I believe. Am I correct or no? Am I not correct? Yeah, that's what I thought. That one, it did come under what the original amount was, but it was only like a few $100 or something like that, if I recall. I'm doing this a little bit off of memory, so I apologize for that. But I just wanted to let the public know, we always try to get a little, I'll say, put it a little higher, and our goal and expectations is hope that it'll come down. But duly noted on the notice, if you will, because that's been a challenge. And then the last thing I'll just mention from a council's perspective, and we've done this before, there has been times where, and the gentleman that just spoke a little bit earlier, there has been times where we have looked, and still do, look at all these different pavement areas within our community. And you kind of mentioned, fitting it in our fiscal management plan for 10 years. But the fact of the matter is, there has been times where we have pushed off projects, right? If we say, Ryan comes to us, our staff comes to us and says, we checked these areas, and we think we can get a few more years out of them before, we really, really need to get in there and do it. So we do, and I know my partner next to me here, he is very particular about, matter of fact, they even brought core samples in to share with him so he could see the underlying pavement of what's going on. And what council, I can say this was before I was mayor, I think it was even before I was on council, but there was the neighborhood that I lived in, they came up, and I think that's the last and only time that a project was delayed. That was before I lived there. So I want to put that out there very clearly. And it got delayed, and by the time I moved in there and then found out the assessment was double, and the reason it was double is because they had to do a full curb and full asphalt replacement there because they waited too long. And so that's the challenge, and that's the risk that we're trying to avoid in some of these cases, is to keep the costs as low as we can and not have to do, complete curb replacement, which does add a lot of cost to the factor. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, I was just going to mention too, in terms of being a little bit surprised, I've already talked to staff about that because this past year, being as kind of cheap as I am, kind of stingy and so forth. My dad raised me to be pretty much that way. But so I was really watching the planning because we did have things laid out, quite a few years in the future for this pavement management. So I was keeping an eye on because I've been on council since 2010 and everything else and on commissions and so forth since about 2005. But so I had never seen Hidden Valley on the list, over the years, and it kind of seemed like it popped up here this past year. I now kind of understand, the reasons why we're doing what we're doing at this time. But I will admit that it was a little bit of a surprise. So, yeah, we do a great job at planning and things like that. This one was a little bit, not quite on par maybe, but we'll keep trying.
Opening the letter, after Black Friday.
I know, yeah, I don't disagree.
Yep.
So, all right.
Councilman Wilson?
Thank you. Corey, I'm going to turn to you because one of the things that you do very well whenever we have these conversations is you describe the legal process that we have to follow whenever we take a look at a project like this. And it is statutorily mandated that we do things in a certain way. So I wonder if you might take a few minutes and just share again, how exactly this process has to flow so that, anybody who may be in this area or people watching at home who are just curious have a little bit better understanding of the way that we have to do this.
Certainly. Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council and Councilmember Olson. This is a very statutorily driven process. Whenever the city's going to do assessments to pay for a public improvement, you must follow Chapter 429. So it's all laid out in Minnesota Statute 429. One of the steps, ironically, is on your consent agenda to order a feasibility report. That is step one. You have to determine whether or not the project that the city engineer is designing in his head is appropriate, is the right kind of project, and the assistant city engineer went through all of the different kinds of projects that could be done. And so the feasibility report will then determine or give a recommendation in every single street as to what the appropriate method, whether it's a mill and overlay or it is complete reconstruction, it will spell out that process. So that's step one, is you need to have the study to determine what the project could be. Then when that feasibility report comes back, that's what you're holding tonight, is the public improvement hearing. It's a public hearing on a public improvement project. The statute requires you to send an estimated assessment. That's all it is at this point. It's not going to go on anybody's property taxes yet. It is just a number based on what the feasibility report said this project is going to cost this amount, and this is how we could do the assessments for the project. This is all, that entire list of how we're going to fund the project. One of those items was assessments. So that's the assessment estimate. That's all it is. You're not going to have to pay for it in 30 days. So the estimate must be mailed to the property owners. and there must be a published notice in the newspaper. That's why you're holding the public hearing tonight. You take feedback. You could continue this, you could decide tonight. If you decide tonight, you'll be ordering the project, which is step number 3. Then the city staff will put together the plans and specs. You will then approve those plans and specs. That's step 4. And then if you approve them, then they go out for bid. Then step 5 is the bid comes back to you for award. So all of these things have to happen at a public meeting. Finally, the city will hire the contractor who will do the project. At the end of the project, as you've indicated, there will be next October, there would be the actual assessment hearing. That's when we're talking about a hard number that the council is proposing to assess against all of those properties. So that's when we'll have the actual, based in fact, can't exceed the $7,400 assessment. That is a property owner's opportunity at a public hearing again to come to you and say why they think that assessment is maybe not fair, or they think it should be reduced. And they can provide that objection at that hearing. That's the first thing they need to do, is object by the public hearing date. If they do that, they preserve the right to appeal. So there's plenty of due process built into this entire assessment, Chapter 429. If they want to perfect their appeal, they would serve the mayor or city clerk with their notice of intent to appeal and then file that in district court. And that is where they will get a fair hearing to determine whether or not there truly is a special benefit in the amount that we propose to assess. So that's the process.
And is it fair to say through the course of that process, there are several stop signs where the council can then take another look and identify whether or not we want to continue to move forward, or whether we think we're at a place where maybe this isn't the right thing to do at this particular time?
Mayor, members of the council, there are at least 6 touch points that the council has on every public improvement project where it comes back to you at a public hearing for a decision.
Perfect. And to Jennifer's earlier point, our objective this evening is just to identify whether or not there are findings of fact that would cause us to want to continue the process. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Councilmember Kambata.
Well, as Dave, or as Councilmember Thiede said, he and I are in a unique position because this affects us directly. But in every other hearing, the same things come up. Why is it being done this way? Why did you choose now? And in every other one, I thought about ours because 3 years ago when our cul-de-sac got patched, my kids were falling into it on their bikes, and I'm like, it's coming. And so with every other time when I had to make that tough decision, I'm like, it's one of the toughest things that we do is to have to make the decision that's right in the moment, but maybe not popular. And from talking to Ryan and, hearing about, hey, what was the assessment on the pavement 3 years ago? Well, 3 years ago when we patched it, we thought it would get us 5 years, but as they continue to do core samples, because we have a takedown schedule for roads, as we're talking about this year's pavement management, they're gonna highlight 5 other years out to 29 or 30 on our CIP. So every year, we look at what is potentially a 5-year outlook for future road improvement. And every year, they do core samples, and, either the road is holding up as expected, longer than expected, or less than expected. And this is, unfortunately, due to that asphalt mixture, this is one of those roads that was degrading faster than expected. And so, yeah, I think, when I was on Planning Commission, I think I remember having a conversation about, like, what helps you guys decide what road needs to be done and when. And it's from that regular monitoring of the oldest and most suspect areas. Plus, you've got Public Works, who's out driving plows, and, as as the work orders are coming in to patch a certain area, that's cueing them into what might be the next potential area for improvement. So I will say that it's always tough to have to make this decision, but, a lot of empirical data went into, guiding this decision, our decision to bring this up for a vote as it is.
All right. Council, any other questions for staff at this point? Okay. So as you know, if you see before you on the screen, we obviously did conduct the public hearing, and now we need a motion and a second for an adoption of the resolution to move to the next step. Councilmember Kambata.
I'd like to adopt Resolution 2024-188, ordering the 2025 pavement management project.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Kambata. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Olson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay? And you will be, as you heard earlier, you will be notified as we keep going through this. And I guess the good news for you is, I know unfortunately tonight, our council member on my right down here is his last meeting. On my left, you can talk to him in your neighborhood, and the new council member is right behind you there. There you go. So you know to harass if you want, or you can call me. But thank you for coming in and sharing, though. That's important.
I appreciate it, and it does need to be done, so, and I acknowledge that, so.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So next is 10 is bid awards. There are none. And then on the regular agenda, number 11, we do have one item this evening, which I'm very happy to see. I've already talked to them back there. Roars Company's Cottage Grove Multifamily Amended Site Plan Review. And Emily Schmitz, our Community Development Director, is going to walk us through this one.
I am, Mayor, Council, good evening. As excited as you are, Mayor, I am as well. This has been a long work in progress. This particular site, if you're not familiar, is located just at the end of the cul-de-sac of East Point Douglas as you pass the Legends and White Pines. A little bit of background, if you don't recall, this was before you will get into that, but this site has nothing short of challenges. As you can see, several different parcels, but I'll make note of, as you can see, Outlot A, a lot of topography change on this particular parcel, a large area dedicated to some stormwater ponding, but I think the biggest item to note is that pipeline easement. Flint Hills does run 2 crude pipes through that easement, so obviously restricting the developable area of this parcel. So this is why it might look familiar to you, Council. Back in January of this exact year, you did see this project before you and voted for approval for a 144 unit of mixed income apartment building on this particular site. You also approved the preliminary and final plat, as you saw on the slide before, several parcels. We needed to bring those together for that Camel's Hump addition, for also the applicant to purchase a couple of lots from the city to make this site work, and then that planned unit development. So over the course, after this approval, Flint Hills, after some reevaluation of what they were comfortable with on top of their crude pipelines, they asked the developer to kind of go back and reevaluate if they could maybe draw back a little bit of that impact. So we went back and forth several times, I will just say that, and we finally landed somewhere in the middle. As you can see, the site plan, the revised site plan on the right-hand side of the screen, some additional surface parking still remaining there. Again, as I mentioned, with the topography of the site, those elevations are challenging and require some retaining walls that need to extend into that easement. And finally, a trail connection. I'll get into the details on this next slide, a better image. As I mentioned, the surface parking, reducing that back from the original approval. Adding some additional snow storage. Obviously, the site is limited. Where are we going to put that snow in Minnesota? Speaking of which, tomorrow, hopefully we're ready. And finally, that trail connection that we always wanted to ensure connected to the natural trail on the north side of this project that connects up then to the Camel's Hump. So these are the amendments to the original site plan that you did see in January. So I wanted to make sure that it was clear. Those adjustments to the site, all of the remaining zoning standards are being met and remaining the same from the original approval in January to this plan that you see before you this evening. And finally, I wanted to ensure that I've reminded you, the developer is not proposing to adjust the architectural materials. If you recall, one of our biggest passions with this project was making sure that as you're coming in and out of our community, that those Class 1 materials are focused on that side of this project, and they are remaining so with their amended project. So with that, I will leave the recommendation before you. I am available, and the applicant is in the audience if you have direct questions for them as well.
Thank you. First council, any questions for Emily? Councilmember Kambata.
I just want to make sure that I understand correctly that there's no change to the total number of units.
Mayor, Councilmember Kambata, no change to the total number of units.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I know they're in the audience because I went and spoke to them a bit. Do you want to share anything, or are you guys good? Yep, you want to just come up and state your name and address for the record?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. My name is Pete Schroeder with Ferrars Companies. We're at 2 Carlson Parkway, Plymouth, Minnesota. Appreciate the time tonight, and thank you to Emily and staff for the presentation and just all the work on this over the past, call it 8 months now. As Emily went over, we made a few adjustments to site plan, but overall it's pretty much the same project that was approved in January, same unit count, same parking ratio, same exterior elevations, and same amenity package. And then over the last few months, as Emily mentioned, we've worked closely with staff and Flint Hills Resources to get to this new site plan in front of you tonight. And we're very excited about this new layout and to move forward with this. So if you have any questions, more than happy to answer those and appreciate the consideration.
Fantastic. Any questions, council? No, thank you for hanging in with us, like I said earlier, when I spoke to you guys before, because it's been a long time coming and a very, very challenging site. A lot of different projects have tried to come there and didn't get it worked out, so I'm glad we were able to work together to,
Likewise.
pending the vote, of course, but, yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, council, so you can see before you under recommendations, we have a resolution. Who would like to take
I
it?
will move to adopt Resolution 2024-191, rescinding Resolution 2024-007, and approving the amended site plan review for a 144-unit, 6-story mixed-income multifamily apartment building located at 6850 East Point Douglas Road South.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Thiede. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Second by Councilmember Cabana. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There we go. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda this evening is council comments or requests, and I guess it's only fitting that I start out with Councilmember Kambata.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, this will be my last meeting up here at the dais, at least for a little while. I have had a great privilege in being up here and working with city council. I was able to get to know some of the most intelligent, dedicated, creative, and professional people that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I'm talking about staff, of course. Myron is selfless with his time. Justin is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. He remembers things that from decades ago, I don't understand it. But he's also very generous with his time, volunteers a lot. I aspire to do that when my kids are older and I have more time. Dave is super cheap. That is one of my favorite qualities about him is he keeps us in check. And he's indispensable with his spreadsheets. So I'm really going to miss being able to collaborate with you guys. Monique, although she's not here, she's been on the council for a year. And in that time, I've seen her jump in with both feet into some really challenging issues that we've had to deal with and never once shy away from the hard work that we do. So I'm grateful to have worked with you, with all of you.
Thank you. Well, same with us, and I'll share a few things here in a few minutes.
And we'll keep you involved.
Yeah, definitely. He already is going to be. Oh, sorry. His wife's out in the audience. She's probably not going to be happy about that. All right. Thank you, Tony. Councilmember Olson.
Well, first of all, Mayor, I want to wish everybody a very happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas to come. It's almost here. And it seems like just yesterday it was January. I don't know how we got here. The time just flew by, but it's been a really good year, and I'm looking forward to more good things to come in 2025 for the city of Cottage Grove. I also wanted to take a moment to thank the Cottage Grove Lions Club and Cottage Grove Beyond the Yellow Ribbon team for their contribution to the Adopt a Child event that we held at Target on this past Saturday. It's an annual event where we come together and we shop for people who are in need. And with Beyond the Yellow Ribbon involved, that includes a lot of veterans and military families in our community. The combined efforts of those two clubs made some Christmas wishes come true for over 100 individuals who might not otherwise have had that opportunity. And it's always just astounding to me how generous people can be with their money, their time, their energy, their enthusiasm. We did a lot of shopping. I'm not going to share the number with you as far as dollars spent, but it was significant. But I think what was more important is afterwards we all went to the VFW and we spent a good 2-3 hours wrapping gifts, trying to make sure that when these families receive their gifts that it was a momentous occasion. I want to compliment Chief Kerner for bringing his wife Kristen to wrap. Because she's an expert and he is not, and neither am I. So between my wife Kim and his wife Kristen, they did just a magnificent job. The last thing I want to talk about is my council member colleague to my right, and that's Councilmember Kambata. Very kind words from you, Tony, very nice, and thank you for those. But, I hope you understand the degree of respect that we all have for you, and from a personal standpoint, how great it's been to work with you as a colleague. I watched you as a chair of our planning commission, and one of the things that we kind of do sometimes is we sort of assess the talent, right? And we look at the various commissions and we see people who are sort of standouts, and you were always one of those. And so when you got the opportunity to join the city council, similar to what you said about Monique, you jumped in with both feet into the deep end. You're very courageous, and I want to reiterate what I mean by that. You are driven by what we should all be driven by. The North Star should always be what is the right thing to do, not what is the easy thing to do, what is the most politically advantageous thing to do, but what is the right thing to do? What is the right thing to do short term? What is the right thing to do long term? And you've never shied away from that. You bring a lot to the table, and I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to work with you. And I have no doubt in my mind that you will continue to be an integral part of the way that the city of Cottage Grove goes about doing its business, whether that's as a commission member, as an advisor, or as a very engaged citizen, or probably all of the above. So thank you for everything you've done for this community. I often mention to people, one of the reasons our city council is successful is because we genuinely like and respect each other. That does not mean we don't argue, because we do. But when we argue, we tend to argue behind closed doors. We come to consensus. And when the consensus has been reached, the conversation's over. We do what needs to be done, and then we move forward. But we do so respectfully, and I hope you and your family know how much we genuinely have come to like and respect you all. And Crystal, thank you for sharing them with us, because it's not easy when you got 3 kids at home. I know that. So we've been blessed, and you're a big part of that. So best to you and your family. I know you're not moving out of town or anything, but I just want you to know that you've left an indelible mark on this city. You should be proud of that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilmember Thiede?
So as usually what happens is that Justin is so eloquent with his talks and so forth. He's covered a lot of the things that I was going to cover too. But I will just I do want to say that one of the qualities I think for quite a few years here we've had as a council is number one, it really is not political. There's a little politics and everything, but I can tell you right now, if it got too political, I'd be out because I don't like politics. The intense politics, I'd go crazy. They wouldn't like me up in St. Paul or anything like that. So I'm very comfortable right here where I am. But and Tony fit right into that. And like Justin says, we don't always agree on things, and you know, and so forth. But we all, you know, respect each other and really kind of get down to discussing things and you know, working together to do what is best for the city. At least that's one of the things I think we believe in. And over the years here, you know, that we have some longevity on the council, I think because for the most part, people of the city see that, and I think that's a communication back to us too, that we're pretty much headed in the right direction. And it's very important to have the right staff and everything else like that to be able to do that too. And I think Justin and Myron can attest to the fact that back in kind of the early 2000s, it certainly, you know, wasn't that way. You know, there was a lot that was different. And so I think it's been kind of molded in pretty good, and I'm looking forward to Dave Clausen getting on and kind of fitting in with the rest of us, and again, not always agreeing, because we don't always agree, but we respectfully, you know, voice our opinions and work together to make things happen. So yeah, you know, and Tony's just down around the corner. In fact, I got to walk past Dave's house to get to Tony's house. And Justin's not too far away either, but I don't know, I guess it's kind of weighted toward that end of the city, I guess, I don't know, but, so I'm sure that we'll make sure he keeps involved. And I was just also gonna say that, you know, we'll have to see how, you know, all the weathermen are excited, right? Because this is kind of the biggest storm that potentially is coming, and my phone, I think, I don't know if it's Google or one of the weather apps, almost knocked me off my chair earlier today when they announced this severe, you know, winter weather alert, because it's, you know, and it's like, holy cow. But so we'll see whether all this excitement is warranted or not, but do be careful, be considerate, and so that we all make it to Christmas and beyond, and look forward to a wonderful 2025, so.
All right, thank you. Awesome. So I have three things. And Carla, our county commissioner, is going, what do you mean three? You're one of them. First thing, though, is more of an unofficial nature. I just need to make sure you know, for the public, that we're supposed to aware at our last city council meeting, after the council meeting was completed, we did a performance evaluation of our city administrator, Jennifer Levitt. And part of the process of that is we have to report back that the performance appraisal was very good. We're very happy with Jennifer's performance as our administrator for the city of Cottage Grove, and we were able to share our thoughts, and she was able to share her thoughts and looking forward in the city. So on behalf of the council, I just want to mention to you, thank you for your many years of great service to us, and many years to come in that. Next on, for my number two, and I don't know if you want to go up to the podium there. I know our county commissioner, Carla Bingham, who is a resident here in Cottage Grove, also would like to present something to our esteemed council member.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council, and audience. I'm County Commissioner. I do live in Cottage Grove. And I just wanted to say to the retiring member Kambata, it's been a joy to get to know you and your family. And I have a Commissioner's Service Award from Washington County, and it says, on behalf of a grateful county, the undersigned commissioner hereby extends recognition and appreciation to Tony Kambata, Cottage Grove City Council member, for 2 years of outstanding service and support of Washington County's mission. So I just wanted to thank you for your years of service, but I've really enjoyed your expertise on housing. That's been helpful to me in my role. County plays a major role in that. But also social services and different things that we've had a lot of conversations about. And again, I just really have enjoyed getting to know your family and getting to know you. So thank you so much for your service. And I know that this isn't the end of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now it comes down to me. So, you know me, I get notes, and because I always, one of these people that I keep forgetting things, like, maybe it's coming with age, I don't know, Dave.
Yeah, it does.
It does come with age, okay. So I wanted just to kind of recap a little bit of my partner down to the right here, Councilmember Kambata. And so obviously, this evening, we are celebrating his outstanding service to the citizens of Cottage Grove and being a great member of the city, Cottage Grove City Council. Tony is a lifelong resident of Cottage Grove, and he's been a longstanding dedicated member of our community, not even just being on the council, but as Councilmember Olson was mentioning earlier, Planning Commission and so on. So since 2017, he has served on the Cottage Grove Planning Commission and actively contributed as a member ambassador to the Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce, where he has been involved with them for since 2016. Tony's commitment to our city extends beyond the council chambers. As vice chair of the St. Paul Association of Realtors Government Affairs Committee and a member of both the St. Paul and Stillwater Area Chamber of Commerce, he has worked tirelessly to improve our local economy and our quality of life. He played a key role in working with North Point in expanding the business park while also advancing affordable housing initiatives and supporting projects like the interim PFAS water treatment facilities that were built here in Cottage Grove. Throughout his time on the city council, Tony has maintained, and this is rare, by the way, I have to say this, he has maintained a perfect attendance record, attending 131 special, closed, and regular meetings, showing his unwavering dedication to serving the people of Cottage Grove. That alone is worthy of special recognition and praise. Tony's leadership also helped the city achieve, and we all love this one, a AAA bond rating with implementing a comprehensive 10-year financial management plan, which I know my partner to the left here likes too, and supporting numerous critical housing projects in our community, especially around affordable housing. His background as a licensed real estate broker in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, combined with his experience in the industry, has been instrumental in achieving local development and economic growth here in Cottage Grove. Big one here, a proud graduate of Park High School. He's got his PhD. There we go. Tony's roots are in Cottage Grove, and they definitely run deep here. He's raised his family here. Obviously, Crystal's in the audience with us. And a fun fact, and this is funny, though I don't know the end part that was shared on here was accurate or not, but he's been a mechanic in his past. And so because he was a mechanic in his past, on one of the events that we had during Night Unite, one of our fire trucks broke down, and our council member crawled under the fire truck to get it up running again.
He fixed it.
He actually fixed the fire truck so that we could get it back
There
up
were
and running
neighbors
again.
bringing him parts.
Yes,
And,
it was pretty
was great.
amazing. So we all have those things that happen, and Tony, you're a part of that. So, Tony, your dedication, your hard work, your passion for this community is unwavering. You have left a lasting impact in our community, and I don't think, as you're hearing up from many of us up here, I don't think it's over. And you know that because we've talked about other roles for you to play within the city here in Cottage Grove. And I just want to say on behalf of all the citizens of Cottage Grove, we all thank you. Our council, our staff thanks you for all the dedication, the support. Crystal, thank you for giving him up many, many, many nights. As we all know, a lot of people think that this is just a first and third Wednesday of the month kind of thing, and it's way more than that. And we also know this too, is we don't do this job for the money. We do it because we love the community, and that's what you do too. So you want to make this place a better place for your family and other families here in Cottage Grove. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to present you with a plaque. And it just says, presented to Councilmember Tony Kambata in appreciation for your dedicated service to the city of Cottage Grove from the city of Cottage Grove. So again, on behalf of all of us, Tony, thank you for your service to our community.
Yep, let's give him a round.
There we go.
Am I supposed to take a picture?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Get in here. Let's
Yeah,
get
you gotta
in.
take a picture.
He's gonna do it.
You wanna come up, Tyler? Okay.
No.
Awesome. You got it.
job.
There you go, buddy.
Yep. Very good.
If you
Thank
told
you.
me it was gonna be 131 meetings when you asked me to,
Yeah.
We never tell that. Now,
I would've never
don't
said
scare the
yes.
guy in the audience away. So, one last thing I'm gonna say, and this is more from a general sense, and we've talked a lot about, what we do on the council, and some of us with more years of service doing it than others, but one of the interesting things social media can be good and it also can be bad, so I do find it interesting, there are some people out of social media think that we're all a bunch of friends that have known each other for years, and to be quite frank, that's completely not true. I had no idea who you were until you got appointed to the Planning Commission, and same with Dave, and same with Councilmember Olson. So it is just interesting how over the years, or even I'll even say our County Commissioner Carla Bingham, when we both ran for council the very first time. So I just thought it was great, and again, I appreciate all the dedication and support that you've given to our community. Just for the public to be aware, after we leave this council chambers here and close out this meeting, we are having a reception for Councilmember Kambata and obviously his wife, and staff and that to be down at River Oaks Golf Course and Event Center. And so just letting everybody that there was invites that were sent out, so we will all celebrate the years of service of Tony and his family down at River Oaks after this. So there is no workshops open to the public or closed to the public this evening, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
no, that's my job.
Yep.
Oh, that's right, sorry.
It's tradition.
It's tradition.
It's tradition.
That's why
Just react.
First of all, thank you for all the kind words. I told Carla that I might cry. I still might. We don't know. And I just want to end on one final note, which is, as I've told the guys down at Public Works many times, everything that we see and touch in this city runs through Public Works and Parks. So tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, when the roads are clear, go hug your plow driver.
But after they plowed the road.
Yes, afterwards. And I move to adjourn.
All right, so a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Gambata, second by Councilmember Thiede. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. There we